Welcome to the Influency Podcast. I'm Hadar, and this is episode number 33. And today, we're going to have a conversation about public speaking with my friend, Greg Smith. Hey there, welcome, and thank you for joining me for another episode on the Influency Podcast. Today, we have something really fun and special for you because today we're going to talk about public speaking. Now, public speaking is not really just you giving a TED Talk. Public speaking is everything that is related to you communicating in public. And a lot of people experience fear or anxiety around public speaking, and it is much increased when it comes to communicating in a second language. So for today, I wanted to invite a dear friend and an excellent professional. His name is Greg Smith. Greg Smith he does so many things. But one of the things that he does that relate to what we're going to talk about today is he is a leadership and communications coach. So he helps people communicate freely with confidence, with impact. He actually wrote a book called Speak Like a Pro Without Looking Like a Jackass. I love the title. He also has a podcast named Speak Like a Pro. So I'm going to link to everything in the show notes below. Now, before we start the conversation, a few updates. So we recorded this podcast before COVID-19. And maybe some of the things that we talk about there are not going to be super relevant for today because right now there aren't a lot of opportunities to speak in public because we are totally social distancing ourselves. But I want you to know that many of the things that we're going to discuss are very relevant for online communication, right? If you have to give a talk on Zoom or to speak up in a meeting with like 30 other people there waiting to hear what you have to say online, staring at you. So I think a lot of the things that we discuss there, you can take it and use it in this new reality that we're experiencing. Also, because I talk about the situation pretty often here on my podcast, and it's not related to the conversation about public speaking, but since Greg is also someone who does everything that he can to support people to spread their message or to support other people in need, then I'm going to take a moment and talk about what I want to do for you guys during these times, because I know that many of my listeners are business owners and also English teachers who are now experiencing a huge financial setback or different financial struggles because of COVID-19, because of everything that has happened. If you have a local business and you can no longer operate in your business, and if you need to start teaching online, you don't know how to do that, or your students don't want to learn online. And I decided to address that in weekly lives on my Instagram account for as long as this period takes. So it's not really related to English, but it definitely relates to, what we talk about in this conversation today about building up your courage and doing things despite the fear and also focusing on what people need. And if you're a business owner, this is what should drive you forward, like understanding what people need and how you can serve them. And I am more than happy to give you advice around that because I have an online business and I have a lot of experience with creating products or coming up with solutions for things that I used to do locally. Now I have a local school and an online business. And obviously I had to kind of like shut down my local school here in Tel Aviv and to come up with other creative and innovative solutions for my students and my customers and my teachers that I want to support and have them and still provide them with work. So I want to share from my experience and to help you figure out how you can still keep your business running. And I'm doing that on Instagram. So I do it every Tuesday, usually around 10 a.m. EST, New York time. But just follow my stories to know exactly when I go live. And in the live, I just answer questions of teachers or people who are looking to understand how they can use this time to build their brand and find creative solutions online to keep their business running. So I will be doing that every Tuesday until there's no longer a need for that. Every Tuesday around 10 a.m. New York time. Follow me on Instagram, hadar.accentsway, or you can just click the link in the show notes. And now let's go back to what we are all here for, which is how to speak like a pro. Let's welcome Greg Smith. Hi, Greg. Welcome to my podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
So great having you here. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'm really excited.
Awesome.
For those of you who don't know you, do you mind introducing yourself and telling your story? I've already introduced you, but do you mind telling us a little bit about you and about your relationship with public speaking and with everything that we're going to talk about today?
Well, I'm somebody who was born into a family that was into manufacturing. And I always wondered where I'd fit in because I saw my dad run meetings and, with the smoke-filled rooms and discussing how to erect buildings and make things happen. And I just didn't really connect with that. And always loved, theatrics, always loved performance. Now, I really didn't want to get into, I don't think, movies or anything like that. However, it was always an interest of mine. And I went all through college and I started in the business and really got into helping people with connecting with themselves and being able to express themselves and actually finding their place in our company through their own words and their own actions. And I happened to come across an assessment person named Davis Taylor, who does a Pro D assessment. And I took this assessment and it showed that I was a public speaker. And I said, well, I'm not really very good at it. And he goes, what coaches have you worked with? I go, coaches? He goes, yeah. Do you have a voice coach? I go, no. He goes, do you have a body coach? You know how to move your body? I go,
oh, wow.
No. How about a content coach? I go, no. He says, oh, you've gone to seminars though, right? I go, no. He says, well, you've read books about it, right? I go, there's books on that? He goes, yeah, you've read the books, right? I go, no. He goes, well, no, you wonder you're no good.
You didn't expect that.
No, speaking's a skill. So he said, if you pour your life into this and get yourself around people that are pros, not amateurs, pros, you will change your life very drastically because you're wired for it. And within 3 years, I had a book. I'm teaching at the university, and I'm coaching people on public speaking. That's how fast it was. Incredible. Now, I poured into it. I mean, I literally... I was on the road a lot and studying with a lot of people and getting on stages. And I realized I liked more helping people than actually being on the stage. I can do that and I enjoy it. However, watching somebody find themselves and hit a mark is much more fulfilling for me.
So basically what you're saying here is, as you have trained yourself and as you work with other people, this is not something that you have to be born with. A lot of people think that, oh, you're born a public speaker, and then they feel, okay, if I don't have those qualities, then I shouldn't even, try, or people avoid situations like public speaking situations or giving talks because they think that they're not talented at it.
Well, I don't know that there's, definitely like you see like LeBron James, okay, famous basketball player. physicality, his physical being helps him become a better basketball player. But he's put the time and effort in that no one sees. People don't see how he comes earlier than anybody else and stays later than everybody else. Everybody thinks he was gifted and born that way, which is totally crazy. Amadeus Mozart, everybody thinks, oh, a prodigy. No such thing. He was 3. His dad started playing with him. He started learning music. So he had a 20-year jump on everybody else. That's why he was good.
Right.
With speaking, everybody's going to be unique. It's when you try to be somebody else. Like if I try to be Les Brown, I'm going to fall flat on my face because I'm not Les Brown. But Les Brown being Les Brown does great. I'm Greg Smith. I need to be Greg Smith. I need to figure out what makes me unique and different, not what makes me what I think I should be or the same as everybody else.
So good. And you know, like most of the audience listening to this podcast are non-native speakers. And a lot of people think I don't have the advantage that native speakers have, right? So what you're saying right now is, you know, like you can't think about yourself as disadvantaged because of the fact that you're a non-native speaker, or right, like that's one way of looking at it. Or is it true? Like, do they really like? Are they a little bit behind in this race of, you know, showing up, being good speakers because they're non-natives? And what are your thoughts around that?
I think that what's really interesting about Americans is we really enjoy accents. We really like we think people are smarter when they don't have a normal accent. It's just kind of crazy. What you teach and how to pronounce words so people can understand you. And that's huge. You know, the speed of presentation is huge too. If you talk slowly to people, that means you're talking down to them. You've got to watch that. But if you talk at a normal rate and you're yourself and you have a little bit of an accent, which says, "Ooh, they're not from here." Americans obviously always think you're smarter than everybody else. It's why do we do that? I don't know, but we do it, and it's to the advantage of the non-native speaker.
That's so interesting because most of the people that I talk to are afraid that people are going to judge them and think they're less intelligent because of their accents. And what you're saying, actually, it's quite the opposite, which is really nice to know. But it's so interesting how people are projecting their own fears and their own judgment. Like they think that other people think that about them, but it's actually their own judgment, not other people's, right? Especially not native speakers.
Absolutely. And it's usually factors you're not thinking of. Like I mentioned speed. You know, if you're a British speaker and you speak very slow, somebody will think you think you're superior to them.
Right.
You know, right? So, but if they speak, you know, normal talk, they just talk like, "Oh, it's my buddy from England." And that's where it gets, you know, that's the difference. You know, there's other factors involved and you hit all those. I mean, you're a master at those things. And if people follow those things, they'll be a lot more susceptible to be understood and from an emotional context, be connecting.
Right. So at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? Connecting with each other and communicating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I shared this good friend of mine, Scott Mann, who is a former Green Beret in the military. In the United States, it's the elite forces of fighters, and they're dropped behind enemy lines, and they have to make friends with the enemy, or they get shot. So they have to know how to connect better than anybody in the world. And what he says is all human beings are meaning-seeking, emotional, social, story creatures. In other words, we're meaning-seeking. We have to find meaning in things. We're emotional, which means we have to have emotional connection. And I mean, we have to have emotions involved. Social means we have to connect. In fact, your brain will literally shut down if you don't have interactions with other human beings. And we're story creatures. In other words, we believe we think in narrative, we talk in narrative, we store memories in narrative. Everything's narrative. So if you don't communicate in narrative, you won't connect.
So good. Okay, so let's say that I'm about to give a public talk, and these are my pillars that I base my communication around or my talk around, but then I walk on stage and I start getting this anxiety, and we're going to talk about stage fright in a sec, but I get all stressed out and all of those things, like they disappear. What would you tell a person who has a stage fright and forgets about the whole idea of, storytelling or connection or finding meaning when talking to other people?
That's a sticky one because everybody's different and everybody has different fears and phobias and issues. And we all have them and they're all unique. I would say the number one rule is what I just said. Everybody is like you. They're all meaning seeking. They're all emotional, social story animals. Okay. We just are. So they're like you. So what I would say is when you're looking into that crowd, instead of worrying about them judging you, which they are, and you're judging them, hello.
Right.
So look at them and try to see yourself in them. Try to find yourself in other people. And there will be somebody in that audience that you really connect with.
Right.
That happens every time. Find the friendly face. Somebody will like you. Guess what? It always happens. Somebody will. Talk to that person. And then as that warms up, guess what humans do? I want attention too. I want you to like me too. So they'll start doing what they need to do to get your attention. And it all starts to work that way because we want to connect. Humans naturally want to connect.
It's really true. And I think it's true for one-on-one conversations as well. Like if you look at someone and you're like, there must be something, like some place where we can connect. Like we must have something that we both share, like an experience or a passion or something. Like even if you don't talk about it, like you have to know that the person in front of you, especially if you feel judged or if you feel that you get stuck for people who are less confident about their English. I mean, if you go down to basics, which is like we're all the same and I can see you, can see myself in you, I think that can take off a lot of the pressure and a lot of the stress around conversing and around communicating.
And here's another thing that, guess what? Not everybody's going to connect with you. Not everybody's going to like you. Sorry, you don't like everybody and you don't connect with everybody. There's certain people you like more than others. When you're authentic, it's like a magnet and you bring people in.
Right.
It's like I connected with you because of your passion, right? And your confidence in what you do. That's why I connected with you. I try to honestly do the same thing. That's what I do. And we connected on those levels. And is that like knowledge or skills or, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with how you approach life. And that's how people will connect with you. So be authentic, be yourself, and the world will literally come to you.
So true. And I think that I had to come to this understanding as well because, showing up on social media and doing what I'm doing really attracts a lot of criticism. There was a time where I would really allow it to affect me and even I would change some stuff and get really self-conscious about it. But I had to realize exactly what you are saying, along with, understanding that my disadvantages are my advantages, or the fact that I'm a non-native speaker is actually to my advantage, and not hiding it or not being afraid of saying it publicly and owning up to my mistakes and to everything that I do imperfectly. I think that was also the transformation where I said, this is me, who I am. This is my identity. And that made me more authentic, which as a result allowed me to attract people who are seeking just that, because we don't want to be more of the same. And this is why I'm telling like my students and my followers, that idea of speak like a native ultimately means don't speak like yourself. And there's a problem with that. So you don't want to sound like someone else. You want to find your voice. Yes, clarity is important. Pace is important. Your rhythm is important. Understanding the language is crucial. Even people who are born into English,
they need to understand the language better in order to become better speakers. So it's not just the work of the non-native speakers, right?
I think when you come to Youngstown, you'll be surprised. This is literally my friends from Israel that have been here have told me this is a cosm of the United States. We have 52 religions here. We have all types of foods here. It's really a microcosm of the entire United States. And half my class is non-native speakers.
Oh, cool. No, I didn't know that. Okay. So,
Yes.
So you definitely, and do you feel the experience, like do you think that there's anything different about how they, what they bring when they come to classes, and when they, do you feel that they have resistance or different fears?
I don't have a problem just putting it out there. Just saying, when you're going to talk monotone, people are going to get bored with you.
Yep.
Even though what you're saying is brilliant. You got to say something. That's the one thing with the Moravian study, the 7% of the words and 38% and 55, 93% of impact has nothing to do with what you say. That's not true. If you put really good stuff in, all right, the words, okay, and there's a megaphone, and the megaphone is your voice qualities and your body language, then you have incredible message, right? If you put crap in or bad stuff in, you just get crap with sprinkles at the end. I mean, what you say is
very
important.
True.
However, how you deliver it is the impact you'll have. And that's where it's important. Don't question your, if you know what you got to say and you have something to say, figure out how to say it.
Yeah. So that people will listen. Like it's everything together. It's really not just about finding the right words, but it's also not just about, I'm just supporting what you're saying. It's not just about using the perfect melody. I mean, it really does go together, but you need to understand that it goes together. So if you are, if one part is not your strength, then this is something that you can work on. It's not innate. It's not something, okay, you're born with it and that's it.
I have an interesting story. When I was in high school, there was a young lady I really wanted to go to prom with, and I practiced over and over and over and over again the words I was going to use to ask her out. I finally go over her house. We talk for a while. I never asked her until I'm leaving. My back's turned to her as I'm going out the door. I said, "Would you go to prom with me?" And she goes, "No." And I turned around. I go, "What do you mean no?" She goes, "You can't even look at me and ask me. And you ask me as you're walking out the door? I'm worth more than that." And I went, "Whoa." That's when I
that's her.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, she's right.
So, I'm not disagreeing with that at all. At the time, it was crushing for me because I didn't understand the complexities of communication.
Right.
I didn't understand what just happened. Absolutely. I thought the words had to be right, and it's not the words. The words are important, but it's how you deliver them.
Right. So
and being authentic, I should have shown my authenticity of my desire to take her to prom, that she was special and it would mean a world to me if I could escort her. And I didn't do that. I said it was a passerby comment.
Maybe you just didn't want to show her that you were nervous and you were afraid that your voice is going to tremble. Well,
here's a good thing. And this is for musicians, for martial artists, this will click for you. But if you're in your head, you're not connected to your body. You got to get into your body. You've got to feel your body. And when you get your thoughts down inside your center, then you're a lot more apt to express yourself. So you're more authentic. The minute you get in your head, you're heady, and people don't like heady. Heady doesn't have anything but them. When you get in your body and you feel your whole body, and you allow your thinking to come from the center of your body, it's a whole different experience for everyone, including yourself.
So can you elaborate on that a bit? So for me, it makes total sense. But for people listening, I hear people saying, what does that even mean to get it in your body?
Get a partner. Get somebody and just have them stand like you're like this, right? And this is you, and this is your partner. and just get heady. Just put all your thoughts in your head and have your partner push and pull your shirt. Just push and pull your shirt. And then go from your head to your body. Just feel your body. Think from your body.
Focus
and have
on
them
the
do the same
body.
thing.
Yes. Yeah.
You'll be solid. Like they won't be able to move you as much. Like why? What's the difference? Because one, you're not in connection with yourself.
Right.
The other one, you're in complete connection with yourself. Makes a huge difference. I remember I picked up, I don't know if people know who Wynton Marsalis is. He's one of the best trumpet players that's alive today.
Love him. Yes.
And I got to play his trumpet, which weighs 20 pounds, by the way. And it's,
wow.
I think, $50,000, but I got to play his trumpet. And if he's hearing this now, that didn't really happen. We'll just say, but I got to pick
got
up
it. So it wasn't with his permission. Okay.
No, it was the guy that was fixing it. He let me do it. He said, just don't tell him. Well, now it's in the universe. Anyway, I picked up his horn and I started playing. He goes, "Where are you?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Where am I?" He says, "Where are you?" I says, "I'm right here." He goes, "No, where are you mentally?" I says, "I'm watching myself play." Yeah. He goes, "That's the worst place to be. Get in your center. Get in your center." And that's another thing. Don't just get in your head. Some people go out here and they watch themselves.
Right.
That happens. And they're really separate. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens so much when speaking in public, when acting. By the way, I remember that was my biggest struggle when I had to do all those scenes and I'd be like watching myself and thinking, did I do this right? Should I walk here? Should I walk there? And like the moment I'm like right there in the character, thinking about the objectives or, what I'm experiencing, just like in touch with my emotions, I think that was when it was really, really powerful for me and for the people watching. And I think being in your head also when speaking English, right? Speaking a second language, that is something that we constantly do. And then, oh, I made a mistake. Oh, I didn't pronounce it correctly. Oh, and that's like usually that happens when speaking, and then English goes downhill, fluency goes downhill, because then you start making stupid mistakes because all you're thinking about is yourself speaking rather than trying to retrieve the words or thinking about communicating or just being in the moment, looking at the other person and, listening to them. Sometimes we are like so consumed listening to ourselves, then we forget to listen to what the other person is saying. So that
a real good practice for this, Sonara, is reading out loud. A lot of people, if you get in your head reading out loud, you'll really mess up. Right. But if you center yourself when you're reading out loud, you sound much more fluid. It's much better.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because when you read out loud, you're not so much aware of what you're reading, right? Like, have you noticed that? You may read something and they're like, what did I just read? But you're in the moment, you hear the words, you pronounce every word, correctly and you understand the flow, but that's just a sign that you're not in your head because you're not thinking necessarily about what you've just read. You experienced the words and the voice and how you put it all together.
Now, on my path with speaking, I know when I first started speaking, I was always, how'd I do? How'd I do? And then you get to the point where you don't care. Like you do it and you don't care. It's like weird. And then you get to the point where if you did good or not, but you don't care. You just know. You say, hey, I did great here or I didn't do good here. And you make adjustments, but you don't let it destroy your day.
Right.
And it's a really weird transformation, but you go through these phases when you become a pro. You really do.
That's really good. I was listening to your podcast the other day and you talked there about and you mentioned it earlier now, and I really wanted you to talk about it because I felt that it's really similar to what people experience when speaking a second language, about the different stage frights, right? And you said that there are a few. So I'd love you to talk at that a bit. What are the different stage frights and how can people overcome them?
One of the biggest ones is it's how can I say, debilitating is a phobia where you literally get out of yourself. And disassociation is the way you handle that. And, a real quick exercise is put yourself in a theater, watching yourself give a talk, watching the talk where you lost it. Okay. Then as you're watching yourself, step out and float up into the control room So you're in the control room watching yourself, watch yourself and see how you feel. If you still feel a little anxious, watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself. Get to the point where you disassociate so far out that now it doesn't bother you anymore. Okay. Now float back in and then change the picture change the colors, make it black and white, make it bright, make it dull, change the temperature of the room, change it till you start to feel okay with it. Mm-hmm. That's how you find where you've disassociated from that phobia. And the reason I say disassociate, when you study phobias, people are cured from phobias when they disassociate from the fear. Mm-hmm. The way to disassociate is you disassociate. So find out.
And you can do that with your mind. You don't have to go on stage and do it over and over again. You can actually practice it before and train yourself or start disassociating yourself.
Right.
That's really interesting.
And that's the main one. Other ones are just a big one is not knowing what you're doing. Like anybody that is a pro in heart knows, hey, I'm doing something I'm not really good at, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. So study it, get to know, develop the skills. It's a muscle, train the muscle.
Come prepared. You can't walk on stage and expect to shine when you are unprepared or when you did it once out loud. Yeah, for sure.
You got to run the miles. You've got to run the miles. Yeah. And the last one is being self-conscious, thinking that people are going to judge you. And they are. I'm just telling you, and you judge everybody else. That's going to happen. Right. And when I said what to do is try to find yourself in other people. Try to be different and be okay with being different, because that's what people like. Do you love to watch people that are all the same, or do you love to watch people that are different?
Right.
It's just like when we talk about story, and I'm going to jump a little bit when we talk about story, no one ever wants to talk about their struggles because they're ashamed of their struggles. But guess what? That's all people want to see. People slow down to see accidents because of the struggle. People watch football. For you, football means different things to you than me, but it means the same thing to everybody. It's people watch they don't go, hey, just tell me the score. I don't need to watch the game. That's how it happens. We love the struggle. We love it. So you got to talk about that. And people love a little bit of seeing you on stage trying to fight to deal with yourself in front of other people. They kind of like to see a little bit of that. Are they going to make it? Are they going to pass out? What's going on? It doesn't get that bad. But what I'm trying to say is people like it when you're authentic like that.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
And they'll come around you and love you and support you if you're there for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if they see the human in you, people are not looking for perfection. They're not looking for, people who don't make any mistakes. This is
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest mistake a speaker can make is going up on stage with unresolved issues with what they're talking about. You can't dump that on the audience.
Yeah.
They're going to reject you. They're going to push back. But if you've learned a valuable lesson in life, and you can share that with people, and you can share the struggle you went through to learn that lesson, you're now a gladiator for whatever you're talking about. And people will pay attention because they love humanity. That is our humanity. It's just like, it's funny with leadership. People think leaders are the people that stand up there and they're just proud and people just bow to them. No, leaders are the ones that roll up their sleeves, breathe heavy and go, well, somebody's got to do it. And they jump in and they get it done.
Yeah.
That's a leader. So, I think there's some misconceptions about what the speaking experience is like, but just like swimming, you can't study it. You got to get in the pool. So you got to get on stages. You got to start to try. You got to start to throw yourself out there.
Absolutely. I think even if something feels like a failure or like a totally horrible experience, you can still learn from it. And the good news is that you're going to get better next time, because you have to go through. It's like I always say, you got to make mistakes in order to speak fluently. Like there's no such thing speaking a second language without making mistakes whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Well, it's when you ask somebody what the greatest lesson they learned in their life was, they don't say, "Oh, when I hit the lottery." That's not what they say. They'll say, "Well, when I told a lie to my parents, and the look my father gave me changed my life."
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing. It's when you hit the bottom and you bounce back up. Those are your greatest lessons. It's not when everything goes right. So, think about it. When you go on the stage and you're nervous about it, you don't know what's going to happen. You're either going to, you might have a good story to tell yourself, and what stories, that's another point too, Hadar. What stories are you telling yourself? Are you saying, I'm no good, I don't deserve to be up here, or this is my first time, I'm going to learn and I'm going to get really good, because there is all kinds of people around me. And another thing I want to tell people is amateurs won't tell you what to do or won't help you because they think it's a secret. Experts and pros will just tell you everything because they know the hard work you got to go through to get where they're at.
So good. So true. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Anybody that doesn't want to help you or says, oh, that's a secret, or, that's an amateur. They just are. Find that person that wants to pour into you.
Yeah, it really resonates with me because a lot of times I get asked, well, you're sharing all this content and aren't you afraid that people are not going to buy your courses? Or I'm like, no, because I know that content and knowledge alone are not enough. Like people need to put in the hard work. So in my course, I offer a path, like a guidance, right? But like if you're on your own, human beings tend to just consume and not put it into practice and then get frustrated for not seeing.
Well, they also want to connect with you.
And they also want to connect, right? Like that's why they would connect.
But that energy, that energy when you're here, you can't get from a book.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this is why when you have something to share and every person has something that they know so deeply and so profoundly and they're so passionate about that they can contribute and help. I'm all about sharing and putting it out there because it only brings abundance and also helping other people, no matter what it is, whether it's English or public speaking or how to groom dogs, it's like, I think that you can share your knowledge. And especially when it comes to speaking English, I think that when you talk, people often think, well, I don't have what to talk about and I don't know how to practice my English. Start making videos talking about what you're passionate about, teaching other people. You really get fluent when you start teaching and giving knowledge, because then you know that you need to say something in such a precise way and you know how it's supposed to sound. And that triggers this whole process of just like saying something confidently and clearly, and then you feel empowered. And that just starts the ball rolling and the ball rolling. And I feel that this, for me also, like when I started teaching, that was the turning point.
Absolutely. I mean, I have a son. I think he's my son because he's never gotten a B in his life. He's always had A's. All right. Always had high marks. He's written a book about it. And one of the biggest things, the biggest secrets to doing well is looking at something like you have to teach it to somebody else.
Oh yeah.
Because it gives you, and it's funny when whenever you're doing something for somebody else, the Spartans had 300 against 10,000 Persians, right? At the gates of Thermopylae. What did they do? They were fighting for the person next to them, not for themselves. When you can do that in anything, you will do more, because humans, again, were bound to connect and collaborate with other human beings. It's in our DNA. It's what we've been doing for centuries.
So when you get all self-conscious and in your head about like the mistakes that you make or about, you're not showing up well on stage, stop thinking about yourself, start thinking about the people you're speaking with, right?
Yeah. And again, try to find yourself in other people. Try to see yourself in other people and speak to that.
You talked about, I wanted to ask you before, you talked about using visualization when you want to get rid of stage fright, and you do that through disassociation. Have you ever tried or worked with your students on visualizing giving a talk before going on stage? So, because I had that idea of helping my students by having them visualize themselves giving a really successful talk. So they will already have had that experience.
I love that. Let's take this a step further. This is great stuff. So, when you're up on stage and you forget what you're going to say, what is happening there is you've hit an emotional part of your body. You have a visceral feeling where you have not practiced the words you're saying with that feeling. Okay, let me say that again. You are experiencing an emotional feeling, a visceral feeling, where you have not said the words or thought those words or had those thoughts in that feeling.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is not only practice visualizing, but practice like you're Henry VIII talking to the crowd, or you're a 6-year-old trying to tell everybody, how this is done, or you're an old man, trying to describe
experience an array of emotions.
Yeah. Just different characters, because different characters have different emotions.
Right.
And then it gets down to something that's huge, and we haven't talked about breath.
Oh, talk to me about breath. Forget. Yes.
Yeah. I worked with one of my pasts is I'm big martial artist, and Bruce Lee was somebody I really admired in my lifetime. And I had a chance to work with and study with Ted Wong, who was one of Bruce Lee's proteges. And I went for my first lesson, and he said to me, what does the human body need more than anything? And I said, well, you can't go more than 2 weeks without water. And he says, now don't move a muscle. Don't do anything. He says, I want to do something. He comes up and he pinches my nose and he holds my mouth. And I go, what are you doing? He says, you can only last 2 minutes without breath. The most important function your body does is breathe. And what do we do as human beings? We learn to sit. And when we sit, it shuts off the main muscle, which is our diaphragm. And we learn to breathe with our chest. So 98% of human beings on this planet are chest breathers. And when you chest breathe, I'm going to go into chest breathing now. It sounds like there's an animal going to get me, and I'm kind of nervous and anxious, and that happens. See, when you breathe with your diaphragm, now your voice just expands, and it has an upper and a lower range, and you're more relaxed.
Right.
The one thing we didn't talk about is physicality and emotions are directly connected. In other words, what you're doing with your body at any moment in time is how you feel. In other words, if you put your arms out and look up into the sky and smile and breathe like you breathe, like you're completely and totally happy, try to be sad, you can't do it. It's physically impossible. You can't do it.
Right.
But then crush your body up and breathe and put your head in your chest and you put an ugly face on and then try to be excited. You can't do it.
You can't do it.
Our emotions are, so when you're not breathing, and breathing is central to everything. So when you're breathing with your chest, you're not breathing right, that's going to that's going to compound any nervousness you have.
Absolutely.
Any issues you have with the stage. So the number one thing you do is breathe. And I'll throw one more caveat in. What do special forces, the elite fighting forces, do before they go into any battle? They go sink and they all take a breath. And they go. Why do they do that? Because they want to sink their breath. They want to make sure they're breathing. The number one elite forces in the world before they go into the most critical situations in the world take a breath before they go in. That's what they do.
Wow.
So when we go on stage, we got to be in touch, knowing how to diaphragmic breathe. Yeah. That's important.
And not to manipulate the breath. So it's not, sometimes people hold their breath or they stop. They don't take a breath before speaking.
Right.
Whether to their chest or to their bellies, nothing. Or they keep on speaking without taking a new breath. I absolutely agree. And that creates a lot of tension. Or they start hyperventilating, because there's too much oxygen or there's too little. So everything gets messed up when breath is messed up.
And human beings are very perceptive. I mean, think about it. When we, thousands of years and thousands of years have gone by, but there was a point in time where animals hunted us and we hunted animals. And when we had to always be, there was the ones that were aware and the ones that were like doing the stuff and making the food and all that, and the ones that were aware when they went, whoa, 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 and everybody got attention. Well, that's, what happens is your whole body changes its chemistry to save yourself.
Right.
Well, part of that is how you're breathing. So if you're breathing like there's an animal going to attack you, everybody in the audience is going to be a little nervous. Like, where's the animal? Innately, their reptilian brain goes, there must be a threat. What's the threat? They can't help themselves. So
right.
when you're relaxed and you allow breath to do its job, then people can relax and be more in the moment rather than worrying about any outside forces that are threatening you.
Right. And I think this is especially important when you just start speaking, right? Because usually people start with that nervous energy and the adrenaline, and the breath goes really fast, and everything that you just described happened. And the first few minutes are also the minutes where people kind of like create their opinion of you. Like they have their, okay, I like this, I don't like this. I want to tune in, I don't want to tune in. And when you come in, and especially when you speak English as a second language, then people need to get used to the way you pronounce things and your rhythm. So people tend to speak either really, really fast and breathe heavily and not being connected to their breath and their emotions. And as a result, people lose the first few minutes, and they already have an opinion, and they have already decided if they want to listen to you or not. So I always say, like, you really need to be in control in the first few minutes. Then you have the freedom of going into more natural direction. And usually by that point, the adrenaline lowers. So yeah, I think this is something.
Well, I have to, the 9 seconds was what it was, I think, about a year ago. Now it's down to 7. 7 seconds is all you have. 7.
Oh, wow.
7 seconds for people to make an impression. It's that fast. So your first word out of your mouth, you have to practice. What is that word going to be? Hi, or good to see you. No, everybody says that. I say when. When I was 12 years old, or, when this, or whatever word you're going to use, practice that word like crazy. So when you say it, it like lands the first word out of your mouth, because that's what people get to hear. And that's when they'll judge you. The first 7 seconds, they'll be like, oh, well, here we go. If you start like everybody else, well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the warm introduction. Go right into story. You can always thank people in the middle of your speech.
Or say your name when someone just introduced you by your name, right?
Yeah.
Like that's also something that I see a lot.
Yeah, don't. If you're memorable, they're going to come up and want your name.
Right.
You don't even have to say it. They'll like, who was that?
They won't remember it
anyway.
If you
that little bit of mystique sells a lot of products. So I'm telling you right now, be a little mysterious. If you forget to tell them your name and they want to know it, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would you recommend for people to prepare for public talk? Like, what are the things, both in terms of content, because I know you do that as well, but also like some of the...
Okay. Yeah, I know how to answer this one. When you go on holiday or vacation, what do? You don't just go, let's go on holiday or vacation. Where are we going? Isn't that the next word out of people's mouths? What are we doing? Right? Nobody just goes. They just don't get in their car and just start driving. What do you have to pack? How do you prepare? Right?
It would be strange.
I always love it when people say, I don't know, what to do with my talk. And they start with the introduction. And I'm going like, why? You don't even know where you're going. Like, why get your car ready for vacation, or why get packed if you don't know where you're going? You're not going to pack the right stuff. So the number one thing you have to do is know where you want to end up. How do you want people to think? And thinking is the process of asking and answering questions. So what questions do you want them asking themselves when you're done? How do you want them to feel when you're done? Emotional context is everything. So do you want them to feel hungry? Do you want them to feel excited? Do you want them to feel curious? What emotion do you want them to feel? If you want them to take action, you better be motivation. It better be hunger. It better be whatever. It could be fear. American politicians love using fear to scare everybody, and I don't know what it's like over there, but that's what, that's what we do
very
over
much
here.
the same. Yes.
Yeah. Because it makes people act.
Yeah.
And think, feel, and what do you want them to do? Like, you've got to give them directions. Always tell somebody the next step when you're done. Like, what can they do next? Don't, if they want to change their mind or do something different, that's up to them. But a lot of people say, well, I don't know what to do. Where do I go? How do I find this information? So think, feel, do. Know exactly what those things are, especially the feeling one. People don't think, they dismiss that one. How do you want them to feel? Then work backwards. If that's my conclusion, that's how I'm going to leave them. What points do I need to make during my talk to get them there? And they need to be in parallel. Don't talk about pitfalls and then talk about benefits. Either all benefits or all pitfalls, or make it a bigger umbrella, which will wash your message. The more specific your message, the more tight woven your message is, the more impact it's going to have. Period. And then your introduction. What story or anecdote allows you to be the person to speak about what you're speaking about? What ties you personally into this? Whether it's something you observed or something you experienced that's resolved, that makes you a gladiator for this moment in time.
Right.
And people will listen to you because they know you're human and they know you went through a struggle to learn something, and you don't want them to go through the same struggle.
Right.
Story seeking. We're all story seeking.
We are. And then, so after you worked it backwards, so you have the introduction, which is, the most powerful speakers tell a story in the beginning.
Right.
And then their first point, story, second point, story, third point, story, conclusion. And it's just like, get them on the plane, fly the plane, land the plane. But you have to know your destination before you start. And if you don't know it, then don't do anything. I use this OVM or OMV, objectives. What's your objectives for your talk? And this you can ask yourself, or you can ask the person asking you to speak. What are your objectives? How are you going to measure success? In other words, is it qualitative and quantitative measurements? What are they? Number one, if your objectives don't match up with what you can talk about or what you want to talk about, then don't talk.
Yeah.
If they don't know how to measure success, then don't talk. If you don't know how to measure success, then don't talk. And the third one is, what value is it to you? In other words, if you speak into the objectives that were set, if you hit the measurements that were put down, what value is that to you or the people you're speaking for? If those three questions can't be answered, then don't talk. Don't do it. It's never going to work out. But if those three things, you'll know exactly what you need to do. Now you can figure out your think, feel, do, and work backwards, and you've got your talk.
And this is not impossible. Like, it's just, it requires more work. And it's not like this easy peasy thing, let's just go speak on stage. Like, people need to put in the work and the thought into it.
Yeah. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Yeah.
And trust me, it's a lot less work when you're clear and everybody understands you than when you're unclear and people are confused.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yep. Okay. Wow. This was fantastic. And I think we're going to end with that. Like, just leave this for people to think about. And maybe if there's anything else that you'd like to share or any other tips, I think it's so much.
We talked about the beginning here is, believe in yourself. And I'm not talking about being arrogant or better than everybody else. Believe in yourself. You're on this earth for a reason. You're on this earth to make an impact, however that is. Yeah. And it's your differences that'll make the impact, not your similarities, or not you trying to be like something you've seen. You're completely unique. There are no two people on this planet alike at all. When you add in experiences, you add in how you're wired, how you think, everything. It's just totally unique. Lean into that, become more who you are, and the world will come to you.
Amen to that. And thank you for saying it.
Yes.
So, Greg, where can people find out more about you?
GregSmithLeadership.com was always going to stay up. That's GREGSMITH leadership, LEADERSHIP.com. We'll always direct them to somewhere, wherever we end up branding that at. But that one's available.
Good. And of course, we're going to link to it in the show notes, as well as to your podcast that I recommend. And and that's it. So thank you so much for sharing all of this beautiful knowledge with us, and very helpful. And I personally really enjoyed talking to you about this, and I can go on speaking to you about public speaking and voice and breath forever and ever. Yeah. So thank you so much, and have a beautiful day.
You too.